Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Terrence Crawford and Canelo. You can see that Turkey al-Sheikh, and it seems to be everyone who's someone has been brought in to try to make the Crawford versus Canelo event a pay-per-view hit. But what happens if it's a pay-per-view miss? Because the measuring stick is like Mayweather, Pacquiao, Mayweather, McGregor. But we know the times have changed. But they're also taking a look at Jake Paul. Now, Jake Paul has had pretty respectful numbers when it comes to pay-per-view events. Jake Paul did 500,000 against Askren. He did 500,000 against Woodley, 200,000 against Woodley in the rematch, 300,000 when he fought Silva, 800,000 when he fought Fury, 450,000 when he fought Diaz, and 68,000 against Perry, which we all know that was a joke. But against Chavez Jr., I expect Jake Paul's numbers, that pay-per-view event, to be very high. But that being said, Turkey al-Sheikh can't afford for this event to flop, because you know when it comes to Jake Paul what he's going to say. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, can Crawford and Canelo, just knowing how everybody has their fire stick and different means of watching pay-per-view events, right? Can they really make it a hit? Now, I'm going to tell you, you got two undisputed champions. They're planning for a historic night. Now, Turkey al-Sheikh is doing everything he can to set the stage for it to be a historic night, at least the lead up to the fight. But the fight itself, only Crawford and Canelo can make the fight itself historic. But we're just trying to see if the world's going to tune in. And, you know, it's got the buzz, but this isn't like the Mayweather-Pacquiao, the Mayweather-McGregor. But we're still a little early as far as the fight being announced and doing press conferences. Fight's not till September. We're not even in July yet. So July, August, September. So by the time we get into August, this whole thing should be bubbling. But for me, the who, what, when, where, why, and how on whether Canelo and Crawford becomes a pay-per-view blockbuster, you know, I don't know. It's a lot of questions to be answered. But it really is, it's either going to be a blockbuster or it's going to be a billion dollar bust, because there's about $1 billion going into this shit. All right? Now, Canelo Alvarez, unless you've been sleeping underneath a rock, he has been the face of boxing for quite some time. 63 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. Man got 39 KOs. Canelo gets busy. I think Crawford is more of a hometown name, while Canelo is a global icon. But Crawford has grown out of just being a hometown name, and he has international recognition. But it'll be unfair to say that Crawford's name is bigger than Canelo's. That's not the truth. Canelo is one of Mexico's biggest sports exports. And one thing about Canelo, outside of David Benavidez, Canelo seems to be okay with fighting anyone, anywhere. I still don't understand why he won't fight David Benavidez, but, you know, it is what it is. Then with Terrence Crawford, man, everyone knows Terrence Crawford is a beast. 41 wins, 31 KOs. You know, handle business at 35, handle business at 40, 47, 54, bubbling up to 168 to try to make history, to try to become immortal. 2-division undisputed, trying to become 3-division, pound for pound elite. But as far as being a proven pay-per-view draw, he hasn't proven it on his own. Canelo has. So with the two of them coming together, if the pay-per-view numbers are very handsome, you'd have to stop and give all the credit in the world to Canelo just for having his name involved with the fight. But also you got to look at what Crawford's done and the fact that he's established a very sound legacy. And there are people who want to see just what Crawford can do. And when you got the money machine like Turkey al-Sheikh, we know when Turkey's in the house, every day is Thanksgiving. when you got a guy like that putting money up, I wouldn't be surprised if the pay-per-view numbers did pretty good. So Canelo's bringing the star power, Crawford's bringing the skill, but only one has consistently sold fights, and that's been Canelo. It's taking a while for Crawford to kind of get there. So what exactly do we have going on here? You got the undisputed super middleweight championship. No rehydration clauses, no rematch clause. That's enough to make anybody want to tune in and watch a fight. You got this guy who people are calling a quote-unquote small guy going up to fight a quote-unquote big guy with no rehydration clause. You know the big guy's going to rehydrate to a weight to where the smaller guy can't. So people are anticipating a 15 to 30-pound weight difference. That'd be like David slaying Goliath if Crawford can take down the Guadalajara and Jalisco native. And then this KO bonus by Turki Al-Sheikh talking about it's going to be higher than 6 figures. Somebody's like, oh, if it's higher than 6 figures, what's it going to be, 500,000? I'm like Mick Nicholas. It's going to probably be, it's going to be 1 million or more. 999,000 and 999 and 999,000. It's still 6 figures, man. Anyway, let's see how it goes. It's being streamed on Netflix. You know, Netflix has stepped into the pay-per-view arena. I think they know there's some money there. So I just think the stakes couldn't be higher, because if this shit flops, there's a lot of people going to lose a lot of money. But I don't think it's going to flop. But right now, I'm not so sure how well it does. They're having the fight on the 13th of September, which is smart because it's Mexican Independence Day weekend. It's happening in Vegas. And, you know, all shit shuts down for Mexicans. Not just in Mexico, everywhere around the world, especially here in the United States. Because that's Canelo's traditional slot, fighting a Mexican Independence Day weekend. So the UFC events that are going to be taking place, it's supposed to be a big event. But what they're going to do is they'll air the Crawford-Canelo piece, and then after that's over, then they'll air the UFC big fight that's taking place on that same day. So the date's not perfect. The spotlight is clear. But will fans show up? I mean, I don't know, because you got the UFC having an event on the same day. So Dana White is actually dual-hatted for the UFC event and the boxing event, which is pretty interesting. But it works. That's why they have it in Vegas, because Dana White's stuff, I think, is taking place in Vegas. It's going to be at the Allegiant Stadium. Allegiant Stadium can hold 65,000 plus people. They're really expecting to have more than 65,000 in attendance. And as far as streaming, they say, Netflix exclusive, no traditional cable pay-per-view. But no traditional cable pay-per-view. But there is going to be some kind of pay-per-view piece. I'm not really sure what all that entails, but that would make it a little bit interesting, wouldn't it? And then the bottom line is, for those who are wondering why go to Vegas, why not do it in Saudi, why not do it in New York, why not do it in Florida, California? Man, this is Las Vegas, man. We all know Las Vegas brings the glitz, man. Any and everybody shows up to Vegas. Vegas is a fight town. But the thing is, although it's in Vegas, the real gamble here, it ain't Turki Al-Sheikh, because he's got the dough. I think the real gamble is Netflix. I think Netflix is really gambling on this event. Just to see if casual fans are going to subscribe to watch. You figure Netflix, there was 100 million people watched Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. 100 million. I don't know how many of those were new subscriptions. But could you imagine Canelo and Crawford? If, let's say, 500 million people watched the fight, right? And 100 million of those are new subscriptions. That's a lot of money for Netflix. So, again, it makes me wonder about the pay-per-view piece. It's not supposed to be traditional, but it's supposed to be somehow, it kind of rolled into this, absorbed into this whole thing. So, something, I need to get a bit more information on that. But the bottom line is, this fight matters. Crawford's chasing triple undisputed status. Canelo's defending his throne. Turki Al-Sheikh is just pushing for global dominance when it comes to boxing, and he may go into other sports, which he's already mingling in a few things, but he may go and start dabbling and even more if he can really get boxing where he wants it to be. Now, the event could fail. anything you're doing involves a risk. You know what I'm saying? But Crawford's limited mainstream appeal could, hurt performance of the event. Netflix subscriber only model. You may get some people who are like, hey, I'm not subscribing to Netflix. I'm going to stream it, like how a lot of people do. And then there hasn't really been much trash up or anything viral that's happened. They tried to make the little push between Canelo and Crawford go viral. That's not enough. They need something like earth shattering to happen to go viral, and for any and every media outlet, nationally, internationally, to get hold of it and air it to really get people's attention. But anyway, let's just see, because I'm not trying to be negative, because Canelo has a loyal fan base, Netflix has a global reach, Turkey's marketing machine and KO bonus are the kind of things that get people's attention. But you just got to understand that with the fans are the ones who either make or break these fighters, man. And a lot of the fans are just unwilling to subscribe to anything for one fight. And at the same time, you got some fans out here that rather watch Jake Paul. And that's just, it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? So to me, Canelo and Crawford is a boxing purist dream. And it wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for Turkey Al-Sheikh. I think most of us know that. But in today's market, this shit still may not be enough because of the way boxing fans are. So I don't know. As the legacy Crawford's chasing, and even Canelo, legacy and dream fights, is that going to be enough to drive the numbers? I don't know. It could be a lesson in how I just think even the best just need more belts to sell. Like the undisputed distinction may not even be enough to get people to really want to spend their money and tune in. But we're gonna find out, man, when they do get busy. But something interesting, since we're talking about Jake Paul's pay-per-view numbers, when Canelo fought Mayweather in 2013, it was 2.2 million. When he fought Golovkin in 2018, it was 1.1 million. When he fought Caleb Plant in 2021, it was 800,000 buys. When he fought Jamel Charlo, it was 700,000. That was in 2023. Those are good numbers. Now for Terence Crawford, when he fought Earl Spence, it was between 700 and 800,000 buys. That's considered a success, right? They made a lot of money. But it was the magnitude of that matchup. That shit had everybody talking. And then Crawford's previous pay-per-views, man, were typically under 200,000 buys. Porter, Khan, etc. So Crawford's style and resume, it has respect, but his mainstream appeal, it only surged really after the Earl Spence fight, and we just got to wait and see what happens. Now, there have been a few projections as far as Crawford and Canelo. You got Richard Schaefer, who's always out here talking, but he's hyping it up as a potential record breaker, talking about Crawford and Canelo can challenge the 4.6 million pay-per-view buys that Mayweather and Pacquiao did. I don't know about all that, but he's supposed to talk it up. A lot of analysts are skeptical. I'm a little skeptical. I'm thinking closer to 1 million myself. But we just have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Crawford and Canelo and Turkey Al-Sheikh could be trying to compete with Jake Paul. But at the end of the day, the money talks and BS walks. And Turkey Al-Sheikh has the money to make sure that this event speaks very loudly to the world. And they could achieve everything that they set out to accomplish. But if it flops, this should go down as the $1 billion bust. Hey, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.